Shall we begin with the words of the Sufi invocation? Toward the One, the perfection of love, harmony and beauty, the only being, united with all the illuminated souls who form the embodiment of the Master, the Spirit of guidance. Yes, friends, welcome. Very happy to be here with you today. And this is the first time I've had the chance to wish you a Happy New Year. And so do accept from me my prayers and good wishes for your good health and fulfillment and peace and joy and success in everything in this year that's now beginning. Another turn of the planet around the sun, a new beginning, and a reminder that causation works in more than one direction. One direction of causation is the very familiar one. The past leads to the present, and the present leads to the future. And as we are conditioned, so we act, and therefore the world moves in predictable ways. But thankfully, this isn't the only direction of causation. There's another direction whereby the world is recreated anew every day, in fact every moment. So the creation of the universe is not something that happened a long, long time ago. The creation of the universe continuously unfurls from the absolute, and new possibilities continuously emerge. But if we are locked into our conditioning, if we are constrained by what we think we know and what we expect, then we really can never receive the freshness of what is new, the newly possible. And remember that the Absolute, or God, is especially known as the all-possible. In fact, Murshid said, people call God the Almighty, but I prefer to say the all-possible. And those possibilities descend always newly upon us, but if we're caught up too much in the past, we won't feel them and know them. So this new year represents an opportunity to turn a new leaf, not to carry on with the burden of that which weighs us down unnecessarily. A sense of irrational shame, bitterness concerning other people or the world itself. We can let go of that burden of anxiousness and distractedness and just be totally present to this moment, this time, this instant. And that's why the Sufi is known as Ibn al-Waqt or Bint al-Waqt, which means the son or daughter of the moment. To live truly in this moment that is fresh, that is born anew from the invisible. To watch the invisible become visible every moment and live in that transpiring. So in this spirit, Murshid has given a prayer for the new year, and some of you may have recited it on New Year's Day, but since this is our New Year together, our first gathering of the New Year, I would like to read it out. O thou who abidest in our hearts, most merciful and compassionate God, Lord of heaven and earth, we forgive others their trespasses and ask thy forgiveness of our shortcomings. We begin the new year with pure heart and clear conscience, with courage and hope. Help us to fulfill the purpose of our lives under thy divine guidance. Amen. This prayer is actually a meditation. It begins by turning our attention toward the Absolute, toward the One Being, but not as an external phenomenon, but rather as the innermost secret of our own heart, thou who abidest in our heart, and the being of which is the essence of love, of connectedness, most merciful and compassionate. Lord of heaven and earth, that is to say, present, compassionately present in the invisible worlds and in the visible worlds. We forgive others their trespasses. So we begin the new year with forgiveness, which is to say that we choose not to carry with us old grievances. Yes, we might keep with us the lessons that we've learned, but the bitterness that comes with a grievance, with holding a grudge, that is a burden that will not help us. So we choose to let it go, to forgive, to turn the whole matter over to God. Whatever reckoning there will be, let it be, but let us, in ourselves, wish well those who have acted amiss, knowing actually that all actions that are harmful, first and foremost, harm the one that does the deed. And to remember that is to help to be compassionate. If someone has done harm, really, that is a harm they have done to their soul, and we can wish them well, we can wish them healing. So lighten our own burden by practicing forgiveness as far as we can take it. We can't force forgiveness upon ourselves, and if one feels a wound, well, the guidance is not to repress the sting of what one has felt. If one has been stung, there's pain there, let it be. The pain will, in time, heal, just as a wound to the body heals. But we can clear the air, we can free ourselves of the heaviness of recrimination and blame and finger-pointing and revisiting the past and wishing it had been different. Forgive others their trespasses and ask God's forgiveness of our own shortcomings. How could we possibly ask forgiveness for ourselves if we don't first extend forgiveness to others? So that comes first in the prayer, forgiveness to others, and then could we also receive forgiveness? Asking that. And asking forgiveness means, of course, that one recognizes if one has done something that has caused harm, trying to repair the harm as much as one can, seeking to take a turn in one's mind, in one's heart, so that one isn't thinking in the ways that caused those actions. One isn't inclining toward those things because one sees it came out of an illusion, it came out of a misperception. So resolving to see more clearly, and then let the past be in the past. In fact, we run the risk of repeating the mistake by carrying that mistake always in our mind. We reiterate it, seeing how we took a wrong turn, turning back, and now letting it go. How important that is for the new year, if in the new year we truly mean to go forward. And therefore we can, as the prayer says, begin with pure heart and clear conscience. And how encouraging and ennobling it is to proceed with a clear conscience when one has a guilty conscience. One is fearful, living in fear of being discovered. One is ashamed of oneself. One tries to keep a low profile. One dare not pursue any great goal because one is cowering in the thought of one's limitation. But beginning anew, learning from the past, letting it go, receiving forgiveness, gives one a great boldness, the chance to take initiative, really lift up one's head. You don't have to live in the shadows of the mistakes of the past. Lift up one's head and with dignity, with optimism, go forward. That's what the prayer is urging. With courage and hope, help us to fulfill the purpose of our lives under thy divine guidance. Each of us is endowed with a life purpose. And when we are happiest, when we're most connected, when we're most alive, it's when we feel that purpose. It doesn't matter if we're rich or poor, it doesn't matter if we have problems or no problems. What gives that feeling of livingness and even of happiness is that you're doing what you're meant to be doing. Whether it's visibly or invisibly, it could be what you're meant to be doing inwardly. But you're doing that which is your purpose. And that sense of being plugged in, that sense of alignment, that gives great fulfillment. And that's what we're looking for. So may this be a year in which, more importantly than anything else, our purpose becomes clearer and clearer. And if we're looking for our purpose, if we're seeking it, it will find us. That intention is crucial. And you feel it because you have a warming feeling in the heart. You know, there's a game that little children play where one child is blindfolded and the other children, the blindfolded child has to find the other one. And they say, warmer, warmer when they come closer. When they are further, they say, colder, colder. You know the game. Well, that's the feeling of finding one's purpose. Feel that warmth in the heart. That sense of getting closer to what you're looking for. You can't see it with your eyes, but you hear a voice, warmer, warmer. You listen for that voice. That's the voice of purpose. So may this be a year in which that warming of the heart, that sense of coming closer to that which we are seeking, step by step, is possible because of this attention, because of our intention to lay down the burdens of the past, to be totally present to this moment, and with optimism and hope and a clear conscience, go forward step by step. O thou who abidest in our hearts, most merciful and compassionate God, Lord of heaven and earth, we forgive others their trespasses and ask thy forgiveness of our shortcomings. We begin the year with pure heart and clear conscience, with courage and hope. Help us to fulfill the purpose of our lives under thy divine guidance. Amen. Shall we now for a moment turn within was a practice of the Prophet Abraham, peace be upon him, each morning to lift up this prayer. The prayer was simply this: "O God, this is a new creation. This is a new creation." To greet the day as though greeting a new universe. And among the beautiful names of God, the Asma al-Husna, is a name which means precisely this: the originator, the one who again and again brings forth a new universe. Each inhalation is an encounter with the new universe brought forth by the divine life. Just as in the sky outside, the daylight that we see is not this morning's daylight. In fact, the sun continuously pulses, and wave after wave of light pours down upon the earth. And so our eyes are filled by wave after wave, which means that every perception of the world around us is a new perception. It's lit up anew by a new wave, and then another comes, and then another comes. In the same way, the whole universe is continuously recreated anew. And the divine name that conveys this is Al-Badi', the originator. So we can intone this together. Ya Badi'u, 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 Ya Yabadiyo, let's turn to our readings from the Gathas. Pasyanfas, Series 2, Paper 2, on the regularity of breath. As the mechanism of the body depends upon the breath for its subsistence as well as for its health, so the breath is important in sustaining the mind and keeping its work regular. Mostly confusion, depression, or any other disorder of mind arises from the disorder of breathing. All diseases such as hallucinations and delusions are caused by wrong breathing. For instance, if a person comes running or is hurried for a moment, he loses the regularity of his breath for that moment, and at that moment he is incapable of thinking rightly. If science and the state knew this, they could surely cause some change in the present law. Many who are put in prison for some crime, which is caused by them during the moments of irregular breathing, the state could send to be cured and taught how to breathe, instead of sending them to prison. For neither does the prison cure them, nor does it benefit by their presence there. By this I mean not only a disorder of mind that comes at a certain time, but also one which comes and goes so often during the day, whenever breathing is not rightly done. When people become impulsive, or show irritability in nature, or become impatient at times, or when they get fits of anger, passion, or laughter, when they get spells of tears, this is all caused by irregularity of breath. The physician has no remedy for it. Modern psychology has not found its link. But the mystics of old have for years believed it. Not only believed, but have practiced it, and have found in the end that balance of mind entirely depends upon the regularity of breathing. So, in these words, already Murshid has said very much. Speaking of breath as the movement of the life field, which certainly includes the drawing in of oxygen and the breathing out of carbon dioxide, but which also includes all of the pulses, all of the movements of one's visible body and even the invisible life field. And so breath is a complex phenomenon, but the movement of air in and out of the body is a very evident indicator of this entire complex of subtle energies. And as Murshid explains, this movement represents a bridge between our mind, our mental state, and our body. In this way, the body affects the mind, and the mind affects the body through the medium of the breath. So bringing attention to the breath, bringing the breath into a natural state, is the most effective thing that we can do to clarify the connection between the mind and body, and to bring ourselves into a state of mind that is clear and lucid, seeing that when we speak recklessly or act impulsively, it almost always is the result of breath that is shallow and breath that is irregular, usually too rapid. So simply by slowing down the breath, deepening it, and making it rhythmic, we can find that we tune our own mind. The mind becomes clear, attentive, self-controlled, and it just comes naturally. And Moshe makes a very interesting note here. Sadly, the situation has even worsened since the time in which Moshe lived. There's a real epidemic of incarceration in our society, and a tendency simply to lock people away rather than really trying to help. And what Moshe is advising here is to better understand the roots of activity which is destructive. And if one investigates fully, one will find that root in the breath itself. In fact, Sayyid Abu Hashim Madani, the Murshid of our Murshid, said to him that on this path there is one virtue and one sin. The sin is the breath that goes out in negligence, in forgetfulness, and the virtue is the breath that is breathed in the awareness of the unity of being. From that pure breath, from that awake breath, spring all of the virtues, all kindness, all self-giving, all generosity, all forgiveness. It comes from the connectedness that comes with an awake breath. And all the selfishness and aggression and hatred and actions that cause harm all come from a breath that is disconnected and that's gone awry. So just imagine, instead of a system based on the motivation to punish and to exclude, a system based in the wisdom of the cultivation of the root of all virtue. So let's turn now to the next Gatha paper, Series 2, Paper 3, The Life Power. On breath depends the capability and efficiency with which one does one's work thoroughly. Shortness of breath gives one impatience, lack of endurance, and irregularity of the rhythm of the breath gives one confusion and makes one inclined to be easily upset. Breath being the life power, it is the same life power which gives one strength to endure all things. One always will find that those who easily get cross, quickly upset, instantly annoyed, have something wrong with the breath. People, not knowing their difficulty, get annoyed with them. They're put aside and considered disagreeable people. What they need is the training of breathing. When their body and mind is repaired, one will find no more disagreeableness in their nature. Then the artist who gets tired of her work and feels a lack of enthusiasm to complete her work and feels a lack of interest and feels absence of inspiration, it all is often caused by some disorder of the breath. Regular and rhythmic breathing gives health to body and mind both. Inspiration comes from above, but as a light. It is the work of the mind to receive it. if the mind is not ready to receive it, the inspiration will come, but will not be realized. It is just like the difference between the gong of metal and the gong of wood. The former will resound, the latter will not resound. It is not the fault of the one who strikes the gong, it is the gong itself which does not resound. So it is with the mind which is receptive to the inspiration and the mind which cannot conceive it. But to every mind, inspiration comes. The only difference is that one receives it and the other rejects it. Right breathing makes the mind vibrate, and vibration is the sign of life. All that vibrates more is more living. What vibrates less is less living. So it is with trees and animals. They show their life in their vibration. India's greatest scientist, Jagadish Chandra Bose, has spoken at a university in England on the subject of trees breathing. Among horses, the horse one selects as the best is the one whose nostrils are fully open and whose breath is fuller, which is the horse which shows in its expression in its eyes. A good horse shows vibrations by the quivering of its skin when its back is patted. It is not like a stone-like horse which takes one step after 10 whips given on its back. In the human being, the same way of life can be seen, which is termed in the Hindustani pani, which means water. They say that a horse or a person has a watery nature, which means a liquid nature, living, pliable. And this life breath gives to the body. This life breath gives to body and mind. So Murshid speaks here about two different kinds of problems in the breath. One is shortness of breath, which is breathing up here, breathing up at the top of the chest rather than breathing right down. So one isn't using one's diaphragm. The full breath means breathing right down into the belly. And so if one is only breathing right here, one is not breathing well, one isn't breathing deeply. And then there's irregularity, which comes with an absence of rhythmic breath. And when the breath becomes fast and then slow and isn't evenly paced. When the inhalation and the exhalation are balanced, attention is keen, energy is strong, awareness is clear. And so the one who learns Pasi Anfas learns to actually be attentive while breathing. We think that breath is something so intrinsic that there's no reason to bother to attend to it. But on the contrary, by watching oneself breathe, one more and more can find the rhythm that's natural, find your natural rhythm. And then you'll notice when you fall out of that rhythm. Now, if you don't know your natural rhythm, you don't know when you've lost it. And that's when one's got to be on one's guard. Because when you've lost your natural rhythm, whatever you say or do is likely to go wrong. On the other hand, if you see that your breath is out of rhythm, you can stop right there. Then you don't need to then refrain from speaking, refrain from action. Go back to the breath, get it back into rhythm, and then speak or act. Then Murshid goes on to say that inspiration is constantly pouring down upon the world. We mentioned this at the beginning. Each day is a new day, a new creation, a continuous stream of new inspiration. But we are locked into our prior assumptions. And we're not awake, we're not alert, we don't have that liquid, quivering nature that's responsive. We're not like the metal gong song that resounds. When the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, received revelation, he described it as like the ringing of a bell. His whole being resounded. There was a sense of intense vibration. And in fact, that which descended upon him descended upon the whole world. But only he was in that state of responsiveness that he could resonate and vibrate and receive it and bespeak it. So that bespeaks the prophetic genius. That is a level of consciousness which is paramount. And we can move toward such a fullness of consciousness by becoming ourselves receptive to what is continuously poured down. Ilham, inspiration. And Moshe describes this as a watery mode of being like water. So taking this cue, we could once again close our eyes and turn within. Feel your feet on the ground or your tailbone anchored in the earth. Feel the sky open above. Feel the crown of your head as if suspended from the sky, and your spine gently hanging down. Whatever burden you have on your shoulders, let it come down to the ground, lift it down, open your shoulders up, open your chest. You can even feel the spaces between your ribs. And in this posture now, we can take up the water breath, make our nature watery, fluid, shimmering, by first of all breathing in through the nose, and as you inhale, feel the ribs lower down in your rib cage, the side ribs, just down below here, your side ribs, opening out, expanding sideways as you breathe in. And then as you breathe out through your mouth. And don't stop short. Breathe all the way out, slowly, gently, but continuously, holding nothing back. To the very end, breathe all the way out. Empty yourself completely. And you can return to your natural way of breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Sense your state. Keep expanding the belly as you breathe in and going out wide as you exhale. Having taken on now the liquid sensation of the fluid element in the body and mind, now as you inhale, let's be conscious of the light and energy all around us. And as you draw in the breath, draw energy down into the solar plexus, just beneath the sternum, where the rib cage converges in the center. Draw in the energy of the universe into the solar plexus, as though all of the rays of the sun and all of the stars are indrawn and merged into the light which is placeless and timeless. And then as you exhale, from that implicate dimension, feel a new wave of energy surfacing and radiating through the center of your chest. So indrawing light through the solar plexus and radiating as you exhale through the center of the chest. Inhale the fikr, the thought, Badi', the originator. Exhale, Badi', the originator, the creator. Sense your state. Feel your 2 feet on the ground. And when you're ready, we can open our eyes again. And let's turn now to the silver rule for today, and that is this: my conscientious self, do not make a show of your generosity. My conscientious self, do not make a show of your generosity. Generosity is so natural to the human spirit. You could even say it makes us human. It's the humaneness of us, the readiness to give, to be of help. Can you imagine if this was lacking? How could we be human? It's so intrinsic to our soul nature. It comes directly from God. We're made on the divine image. And so generosity is a natural part of us. And we look for opportunities to manifest that natural quality. But too often, that which is natural in us gets mixed up with that which is artificial. That is to say, our strategies for getting ahead, getting the better of others, exploiting situations for our benefit, and so forth. Those tendencies creep in if we're not careful. So the whole study of adab and akhlaq is for the purpose of looking at ourselves clearly, because when these tendencies creep in, we may not recognize them unless we look at ourselves and see, is this happening? So the study of human nature, the study not only of those ways of being which are natural and bountiful, but also those ways of being which are artificial. That study helps us to clarify our motivations and priorities in life. So now the opportunity is to study what keeps generosity real and sincere, and what undermines it. And what we discover is that we do need to make a distinction between trading and giving. Trading means that you are exchanging something for something else, and there's an intention to receive as much as one gives. That is the way of the marketplace. And that has its place in our society. But giving is something else. Giving isn't trading. Giving means that you simply give and don't expect anything in return. But sometimes giving gets mixed up with trading. One gives, but at the same time, there's the thought that having given, what will I get in return? And one of the ways that one tries to get something in return is by loudly making it known that one has given something. Because then what one gets in return is the credit, at least, of having given it, and maybe even the sense of obligation on the other person's part that they owe you something now, and being seen as a generous and capable person. All of those motivations spring up and cloud the purity of the initial gesture of just giving it because it's needed, because it helps, because it's natural to give, because that's how the universe is. The sun just gives its light. It doesn't tell us it's giving its light. It doesn't loudly proclaim it. It just gives because it's the nature of the sun to give. And the earth brings forth crops because it's the nature of the earth to give. And the river gives its water naturally. So when we give that way, that's the most beautiful and natural way of giving. But when we leverage the giving for all kinds of additional purposes, then the naturalness of it is lost. And this is reflected in a hadith, a saying of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, in which it is said that one who gives secretly, that giving is inscribed secretly. And one who gives publicly, that giving is inscribed in the register of public gifts. And the one who gives and makes a show of it, that giving is stricken from both registers and inscribed in the book of hypocrisy. So that's quite a striking piece of guidance, because it really challenges us to consider the nature of how we share in this world, how we pass on the blessings of life, whether we do it gently, in a way that the one who receives it can receive it as something gentle, or whether we give it in a way that may strike as hard the one to whom something has been given. In fact, you might look back on your life and think of times when you've been given something, but you almost wish you hadn't been given it because of the manner in which it was given and the way that it was called attention to later on and so forth. So what makes a gift beautiful isn't only the thing itself. Maybe that's the least important part of it. But the intention, the manner, the connection that's established, the genuineness of it, the lovingness of it, the thoughtfulness of it, that's what makes giving so beautiful. So these words are a reminder to us not to give up giving, not to stop giving. Hopefully that's not what results from studying this. Give all the more, but give in such a way that the gift is truly a gift. So I'll say these words, we can close our eyes, and if you feel that you want to really pledge yourself to this aspiration that, yes, that is how I wish to give, then when I say it the second time, do join me in those words. My conscientious self, do not make a show of your generosity. My conscientious self, do not make a show of your generosity. And here is where the live stream ends. So friends in other places, God bless you, be well, hope to see you again.